Johnny Carson brought laughter to millions, but his legendary humor never betrayed his secret role as Hollywood's silent judge. He kept a private blacklist of celebrities whose cruelty towards staff exposed the darkness behind their charm. For 3 glorious decades, Carson was not merely a television host, he was the unseen monarch of American culture. From the moment his silhouette appeared on NBC and the famous theme music began, he held the nation in his palm. His warm, effortless charm and lightning-fast wit were the perfect invitation, making every A-list star feel like a comfortable guest and every viewer feel like a welcome friend. While he publicly treated everyone with impeccable grace, Carson carried a private and definitive blacklist. This list wasn't reserved for those who simply bombed a joke or gave a boring interview. It was a catalogue of celebrities whose off-camera actions descended into genuine cruelty, naked manipulation, and professional toxicity. For Johnny Carson, the line that could never be crossed was the abuse of power, the deliberate mistreatment of the stagehands, the young assistants, and the crew members who had no recourse against a global superstar. Here are the factual accounts of the most infamous figures who completely shattered the myth of celebrity grace and landed squarely on Johnny Carson's list of the truly unbearable. Joan Crawford was the quintessential vision of old Hollywood, projecting an image of immaculate, regal perfection. To the public, she was an icon of discipline and elegance. But away from the lens, she was reportedly an icy, exacting dictator. Her backstage demands were legendary for their sheer fussiness and complete disregard for the professional expertise around her. She reportedly insisted the dressing room temperature be set to a precise 67 degrees Fahrenheit, demanding conditions that only she deemed acceptable. Furthermore, she would completely ignore the show's expert lighting and set crew, manually rearranging all furniture and lighting equipment to suit her exact angles. She brought her personal team, viewing the Tonight Show artists as beneath her and often refusing to even acknowledge the staff provided by NBC. The incident that truly and permanently stained her reputation with the staff involved a nervous, young female production assistant. When the assistant accidentally interrupted her dressing room while delivering water, Crawford allegedly unleashed a vicious, sustained barrage of verbal abuse. She reportedly used deeply personal and vulgar insults, attacking the young woman's intelligence and character until security had to intervene to escort the weeping, shaken assistant away. Yet, seconds later, when the "Here's Johnny" cue was given, Crawford flipped a switch, presenting an image of rehearsed, mechanical warmth. Carson's private assessment of her was cuttingly simple. He had interviewed corpses with more personality. His later public validation of Christina Crawford's devastating memoir, Mommy Dearest, which exposed the star's abusive private life, only confirmed the profound cruelty he had glimpsed firsthand. The realization that her entire public persona was a fragile, carefully constructed facade made her utterly contemptible to him. Frank Sinatra, the chairman of the board, guaranteed ratings and commanded immediate awe. His mere presence in the studio was a massive event. But the price of his presence was reportedly a palpable aura of hostility and chaos. On the air, he and Carson were the height of professional courtesy, playing the roles of mutual admirers. Backstage, Sinatra moved with a massive entourage that acted less like support staff and more like a menacing security detail, ensuring no one, from network executives to janitors, dared challenge the star's authority. Sinatra was known to allegedly bully the technical crew, treating them as disposable parts of the machinery. In a now infamous moment of pure, blinding rage, he reportedly physically grabbed a floor manager by the tie and snarled that no one, under any circumstances, had the authority to tell him when he was scheduled to perform or where he needed to stand. His most frustrating habit was his absolute unpredictability. He would cancel appearances on a complete whim, sometimes literally standing on the set ready to go, effectively holding the entire massive production and NBC's primetime schedule hostage to his personal moods. Though the network and the show desperately wanted his ratings, Carson found the toxicity unbearable. He took the rare and decisive step of limiting Sinatra to just one single appearance per year, a profound move that signaled his intense personal distaste despite the massive commercial costs and the pressure from network executives. Orson Welles was a towering creative genius whose cinematic work remains legendary. However, his extraordinary talent was tragically matched by an equally gargantuan, self-serving ego. When he sat on the couch, his clash with the controlled, punctual nature of television was absolute. He reportedly dismissed every prepared question Carson offered as uninspired, and beneath his intellectual level, refusing to play by the rules of the format he had agreed to appear on. He would then completely monopolize the airtime, launching into long, winding, and often self-aggrandizing monologues that blatantly ignored the show's strict timing and the presence of his fellow guests. His reported disdain for the crew was absolute. He treated production assistants as if they were invisible, speaking of them in the third person. Worse, he directly interfered with the creative process, attempting to direct the camera angles and lighting himself, overriding the technical experts. Carson, a professional who deeply respected craft and teamwork, was profoundly frustrated. His lament that genius doesn't excuse everything perfectly captured his disappointment that Welles's brilliance was totally eclipsed by his complete lack of professional respect and his uncontrolled, consuming arrogance. Bette Davis possessed an intense, magnetic energy that made her a cinematic legend. But behind the scenes, that intensity reportedly translated into volatile and abrasive behavior that put the entire staff on edge. During tapings, she allegedly talked over and interrupted others with impunity, particularly younger female guests. She would notoriously turn her back on other people being interviewed, making it abundantly clear she thought they were beneath her attention and time. Her mandatory pre-show ritual included hard whiskey, which reportedly sometimes led her to slur remarks that contained sexist and racist language, behavior that deeply offended the multi-ethnic and diverse crew. When she harshly berated a stagehand during a rehearsal, Carson, known for his calm, quiet authority, finally stepped in to publicly enforce respect for his staff. This intervention was a sign of his breaking point. After her final visit, Carson delivered his final, weary verdict to a trusted confidant. Life's too short to spend it being verbally flogged by Bette Davis, no matter how many Oscars she has. The host realized that no amount of star power was worth the disruption and discomfort she consistently caused. Mickey Rooney, a child star who matured into an industry veteran, presented a difficult, often embarrassing problem in his later years, highlighting a stark difference between old Hollywood and new professional standards. He reportedly became notorious for making inappropriate and aggressive sexual advances toward the young female staff members. Often allegedly intoxicated during tapings, he made suggestive comments and repeatedly crossed basic professional boundaries with women on the crew who were decades his junior. Johnny Carson was reportedly deeply shamed by this conduct. He felt such a profound sense of responsibility for his set and his employees that he felt compelled to personally apologize to young female guests who had been subjected to Rooney's unwelcome behavior. While his status made an outright ban difficult due to network politics, Carson decisively limited his appearances, placing them under tight supervision and reducing their frequency. This was a clear, tactical effort to mitigate the damage caused by a star whose legacy was increasingly overshadowed by his problematic private behavior and failure to adapt to modern decency. Aziza Gaba sparkled on screen, projecting an image of pure, continental glamour and light-hearted decadence. But her famous diva demands brought chaos and severe disruption to the tightly run show. Her pre-show requirements were legendary for their absurd detail. The room temperature had to be precisely 74 degrees. She only accepted fresh orchids of a specific shade, and her bottled water required exactly 3 ice cubes. She even demanded a personal lighting technician be flown in for every appearance, incurring massive production costs. In one frustrating incident, when the show's team couldn't immediately procure her very specific brand of foundation, she allegedly staged a protest, refusing to leave her dressing room for an extended period. This forced frantic, last-minute errands across the city and threw the entire taping schedule into disarray. Carson, always the comedian, once joked that he would prefer to interview a cat over enduring her constant, petulant whims. Yet her sheer star power meant that, despite the headaches, she remained a recurring, maddening presence. A perfect example of a star whose public value outweighed her professional courtesy. Shelley Winters was an actress of undeniable, ferocious talent, but she wielded an unpredictability that terrified the production team. Her presence turned every taping into a potential landmine. Her conversational style had no boundaries. It would abruptly veer into intense, lengthy political rants, rambling monologues, or deeply personal, raw confessions that destroyed the show's necessary light rhythm and format. Known for her explosive temper, crews were always on high alert. On other shows, she had famously thrown a glass of whiskey in a co-guest's face. As a preemptive measure, the Tonight Show crew would often quietly remove all breakable objects from the immediate vicinity of the couch before her arrival. Jane Russell, a mid-century icon of classic allure, saw her reputation reportedly corroded by an unfortunate turn toward extreme conservative intolerance in her later career. Backstage, she allegedly expressed divisive, cruel opinions, specifically targeting LGBTQ+ staff members. She reportedly refused makeup from a gay artist and openly disparaged famously closeted stars like Rock Hudson, bringing her personal prejudice to a professional workplace. Carson, who valued respect, neutrality, and professionalism, was deeply uncomfortable with her targeted attacks. The breaking point reportedly came with a major backstage incident where Russell publicly and scornfully railed against civil rights legislation. This act of personal bigotry, attacking the rights and dignity of others, was reportedly the final straw. Carson quietly but firmly blacklisted her. Jerry Lewis, the celebrated comic genius and humanitarian, harbored a duality that made him perhaps Johnny Carson's most personally despised guest. Lewis reportedly showed a brazen disregard for Carson's authority, frequently talking over the host, adjusting his tie without permission, and constantly seeking to humiliate the staff with active disdain. He viewed the production as his own personal stage for tyranny. In one notorious account, Lewis allegedly rebuked a cameraman for simply breathing too loudly, displaying a petty, casual cruelty that stood in stark opposition to his widely broadcast public persona as a philanthropic champion. This consistent, toxic behavior led to the most extraordinary condemnation Carson ever issued. Johnny Carson permanently banned Lewis from The Tonight Show, describing him privately as truly hateful, a breathtaking and final judgment from a man legendary for his professional tolerance. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching till the end. What do you think about Johnny Carson? Tell us in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.